All right, so it worked. So that's 224.
Let's start with the check. I'm ready to start this session. I'm feeling like a 6 right now. Check.
Great, thank you, Jorge. All right, let's go to Miguel.
Well, first of all, I know certain moments there is emotional issues, but every single guy and every single woman need to understand that those emotional issues must be in control. You need to feel it, but you must control it. Because if you let them lead, the disaster is the only outcome. Saying that, there is also a very important thing that we already discussed in the moon session, which is the way that we address those issues. We already got the information and the methodology. And also there is an organization that is right now under stress, under financial stress. So we need every single person giving his best to help each other and help the organization. So I don't know what's going on between that issue, but please, every single guy, every single man and woman who is implicated in that, please treat yourself and others, because if you are willing to discuss with manners and with respect, you can resolve everything, sorry. But you need to be willing to do so and also respect others, because today I know you are trying to resolve something, but I feel respected because George and I, yesterday, we talked about this meeting, we prepared the document, and we are here to work. So your issues are important, but you need to be very concerned about the other people's issues also. So please, Albina, Lucy, I know that everything can be solved if you want, and if you have the humble to listen other people. Just listen and try to understand and try to figure out how to work, because this is learning for every single guy in here, every single person. We are learning about how to overcome a situation, and that will make you a better person.
Cool.
I'm very upset right now, but I'm talking with calm, and I'm a 7. Just today, I'm a 7. Check.
Okay. Mazi. You there? Sorry, it's Mazi's turn now.
Hi guys, I am very much excited to join this session, and I am number 8 today. And can I have the talk, please?
Sure, I'll share it.
Cool. And Steve, you want to check in next?
Thank you, Steve.
Sure. When I got here, I was like, that might be the wrong doc. Sorry. I'm sorry. I just sent you the wrong doc. Somebody sent them the doc. When I got here, I was like, when I got here, I was in it. Now I feel like a 4. I feel like a 4 for trying to do the things the way we're supposed to do them, and having people jump on me for doing what we're supposed to do and using the conflict evolution process the way it's supposed to be used. I feel a little disappointed in some of the people here for not realizing that things are being done the right way, and it's not the people who are trying to do its fault that the person involved doesn't, go through the process the way it's supposed to be. Otherwise, besides that, I'm fine. Happy to be here, but rather annoyed at the whole thing at the moment. So I'm a 4.
Cool. So I'm gonna check in next. I'm doing okay. I don't have a lot of time. Would be good to get this done in like an hour and a half. I am probably like a 5.5, which is good. Feeling a little better. Obviously, people are spending a lot of time during the check-ins talking about the conflict issue, which is not exactly what check-ins are for. But I want to mention that I disagree with some of the statements. Primarily that what Steve just said. I do not feel like anything of this is following the processes, right? All the processes were not followed. And now we're trying to go backwards and try to get back into the process. And it could take weeks to get us everything back set up. Right?
But since the meeting, also, what was discussed at the new moon?
Sure, but it's still we're not, the process has not been followed in the past. The process, we're trying to get back into the process, and it's going to take time and effort and energy. Right, and that we can address it more today. But I think it's the most important thing is to learn the nonviolent communication. You know, maybe we can go into that a little bit today. But you know, what you just there's things that are saying that are still crossing certain lines that are difficult. Like for example, saying that somebody isn't following the process still. That is an attack. What you
no,
just said.
I didn't say that. He was not willing to follow the process.
But either way, that saying that person is not doing something is not nonviolent communication. Nonviolent communication is only speaking for yourself, not other people. That is an opinion, and it's not a fact. Does that make sense?
All right. So I should have said, I wish the people involved would all follow the process and be there.
Yeah.
That's speaking for myself.
That we should all just learn and get better at following the process, right? So that's it's a very extensive learning experience, the whole thing. We'll go more into it. Let's let Lucy check in.
For me, I'm very much disappointed with this team. Indeed, when I was joining the session, I was just like any other person that can join. No, really. The problem with Steve, he did not come and at least spend some minutes and wait for the session. Maybe he can bring it like as a topic. Then he just begin it the first time, he's saying this, Lucy, you need to do this. Lucy, are you okay? Then I say, yes, I'm perfectly okay. Are you okay? You know, it is also good for the people to arrange the way we do the session. Then if you have an issue, for me, really, I feel like maybe you guys, I have to know what you guys discussing. I was just innocent. I did not know it was not. They were. I was somewhere. That is why now I feel well this session. It's really, you need also when you come and tell somebody anything. Can you first approach? Can you also allow those people, if I have a problem, come and ask me first before maybe you come up and start talking. Thank you. I'm at 5.
Right. Okay, so let's go into our desired outcomes. Getting more organized as a team, addressing decided responsibilities for changes in FQN payroll. Jorge and Miguel want to take this responsibility. Understanding new billing processes. Maybe we could say beginning. Understanding billing processes. Continue. I would add to continue to address and understand how best to move forward with conflict evolution. I think that, cover basics of non-violent communication would be very important if we are able to do that. I would love to get done within 1 hour from now. So that would be at 1.5 hours total. Any other desired outcomes?
Yeah, well, my desired
That we done on VZX and mesh.
What about VZX and mesh?
That we get a plan going to get it done.
Okay, so that would be part of our team goals and priorities.
Okay.
And then our primary topics, if we can get to it. Mazi, did you have something you added?
Yes, I want to say that I am willing to learn about management.
Did you say recruitment?
Project management.
Project management?
Yeah.
And what would be your desired outcome for project management?
Yes.
What would be your desired outcome for project management?
No, just that. I would like project management.
I would like project management. I'm still not exactly sure what that is, so maybe we'll get to that. I'm not sure. Any other desired outcomes or topics?
About payroll.
We have payroll. Right now, there's conflict of resolution, payroll, billing, other project management stuff, and then hopefully we get to our weekly goals and priorities. Would be good. And then maybe we can get to the VZ exit mesh. Are there any other desired outcomes or topics?
Today over budget. I want to.
What do you want to go over the budget for? What's the desired outcome?
That how to get out of our budget.
Would be bringing in income. So maybe we should discuss income. And I would say that's an other. I mean, I don't know if I would prioritize that over everything else, but income / budget. I would put that as a group and team goal. And then Canopy is obviously our main focus for income right now. And the sooner we get done with this, and the sooner I can get focused on Canopy, the more money we can make, you know, or at least not lose. So
we're back up to 11,816. So
yeah, everything's going good. So but again, the value doesn't matter. What matters are the trades and going back and forth.
I know.
All right, so we have conflict evolution, payroll, billing, and then we have our weekly goals and priorities, and then hopefully we can start getting into some of our priorities. Right, so I just want to make sure you guys understand that the goal of the whole way that we structure our meeting is that we get through our group and our team setup so that we can focus on our goals. Right, so the fact that we very rarely get to our goals means that as an organization, as a group, as a team, we're not set up. Does everyone understand that? So the sooner we get set up and we get organized, the more we can focus on our goals and the more planning and implementation that we can do for all the work that we're trying to make happen.
We also don't have on here. To check out the team spreadsheet.
I would say we skipped that. We're almost an hour over time.
All right.
That's what I would recommend we skip that.
All right. I just realized that it wasn't there, so I just mentioned it. No problem.
So are there any other topics or desired outcomes?
I think it works to make it on time.
I don't understand. What is that?
I think we already have on the agenda. It's okay to fulfill the 1.5 hours that.
Cool. So are there any objections to the topics and times and agenda? All right, so now we have agreement on topics and desired outcomes. All right, so then next is we go through our schedule. This is one of the things that we're missing that's very, very important. So the first thing for the schedule review would be, we want to do a break in 20 minutes. Who's the timekeeper again?
Miguel, myself.
All right, so we're going to break in 20 minutes at the top of the hour. Okay.
All right.
For a water bathroom break, you get like maybe this will be like a two-minute break. Then the goal is to be done by the bottom of the hour would be ideal. Probably not gonna get that, but let's say at 3:20 we start wrap up.
Okay.
So I think that would, at 3:20 if we start wrap up, that would allow us enough time to, get through at least some of these agenda items and then get grounded and wrap things up as a group. So that's what I would suggest for the schedule. Does anyone have any objections to that? We'll probably end up.
No objections.
Okay, cool. We'll probably end up going a little over the bottom of the hour, but you guys can always continue without me afterwards if people want to keep going. All right, so let's go to our first topic. Yeah. So our first topic would be conflict evolution. And how much time we have this for? 10 to 15 minutes. And my recommendation is that we spend this 10 or 15 minutes focusing on nonviolent communication, but there are certainly other things that we could do. So maybe a quick overview of the conflict evolution policies. And we could do that for like 2-3 minutes. And then I would say we focus on non-violent communication for like 5 minutes. Is there anything else that people want to go over? Maybe just answer any other questions.
Right? Yes.
All right, so that sounds good. So let's do a quick overview of conflict evolution policies. First of all, we need to make sure we're tasking, getting all of the policies documented and organized. And I think there might be some on my computer. Might be some on Jay's computer. But if anyone wants to read through all of the policies in detail, they can. The easiest thing to understand is that, so there's the pre-conflict process, and then there's the general, and then from there we have, conflict resolution, conflict mediation, nonviolent communications, third-party mediation, and facilitation, right? So the list goes on and on. There's probably like 10 different policies and steps that are listed there. We follow Quaker policies that basically state if you are not willing to that is the worst possible outcome. Is that so basically, our system, our goal is that we can work through any and all conflicts through our process. Or that's our ideology. Right? That there's no conflict and no issue that cannot be worked through, and that the goal is to learn, listen, hear, and release, express, empower. The goal is not to resolve. Okay, that makes sense? The goal of conflict evolution is not to resolve things, right? We do have a conflict resolution process that can help bring resolution, but the goal of mediating and dealing with conflict is not to resolve it. Many times issues and the problems themselves actually are just a symptom. Typically, the real issue is not communicated. So our goal with conflict evolution is simply to communicate, listen, hear each other out, understand, use nonviolent communication methodologies, and then from there that stems towards resolution, but the resolution itself is not applicable to the conflict evolution process or policies. Does that make sense?
All right.
So you say so.
So the last part is that. Okay, so the last part is evolving organizational policies, protocols, procedures, etc., etc. So this is not in the conflict evolution policies. These are organizational policies. So we can change any organizational policy we want to, and we can make any decision we want based on the issues around the conflict, separate from the actual individuals involved. Does that make sense? So what I'm trying to say is that we separate the organizational policies from the individual conflicts and issues. Okay, does everyone understand that? Do you guys understand that aspect?
Yes.
It's really important. So there's two totally separate things going on here. One of them is the personal, issues between individuals, and the other thing is following the organizational policies. Many times, following the organizational policies can solve, a majority of the issues.
I'm sorry. Could somebody please mute your microphone? Thank you.
So does this make sense to you guys? Because it's really important to understand. Right, that the following the organizational policies, a lot of the problems typically arise from not following policies and procedures, or not understanding them, or not communicating, etc., etc. And then everything else goes into the conflict evolution, which is personal issues, which are separate from the person. Like no one has to love and like each other in this organization. What we have to do is we must be professional and courteous, as Miguel always says, and to get the work done. That makes sense? To help other people. Are you guys understanding?
It makes sense. Yes.
Yeah. So conflict evolution in general is not about the organization. You're just dealing with that to address personal issues between people. Whereas when we're working, we're getting focused as an organization and are following our policies and following the in changing policies to address any issues that arise are organizational. For example, we could propose that temporarily for 2 to 3 weeks, Lucy doesn't work with Steve. right? We can propose that as an example. This is just an example, not saying that that needs to happen. That would be an organizational policy totally separate from the conflict. It would address the conflict, but the policy itself would exist separate from the personal issues, and it would be temporary, right, for X number of weeks or whatever. Another example would be, you know, scheduling a mediated session, right? You have a policy where the mediated session needs to happen, but the people within that session, the actual conflict evolution process is between those individuals, not between the organization. Okay, so are there any questions about the overall conflict evolution policies? Yes, and we as
not on my side.
Yeah, we as a group can decide what policies we want to implement as needed. This is like a tool chest, okay? And this is just the beginning. There's many, many other options that we have. All right, so I would prioritize nonviolent communication. Okay, I would prioritize nonviolent communication, and that's why I think we should focus on nonviolent communication for the next 5 minutes. Is anyone, does that sound good? Are we ready to move into nonviolent communication?
Sounds good. We've been 8 minutes on this topic now.
Okay. So we've gone over this before. Does anyone remember any of it? Like the most important parts of nonviolent communication?
Many situations
For yourself?
Speak for yourself, exactly. Speak for yourself, and you do that with what's called I statements. Right? So nonviolent communication requires you not to have opinions of other people and to say what they said or to say what they did, right? So for example, saying that, you know, this person attacked me, that would not be that would be a violent communication, right? And we do it all the time. 90% of our normal communication is violent. We talk about people all the time as if they didn't exist, right? So it's actually extremely hard to use I statements, and we actually have to program it into ourselves little by little. So another example would be, I feel, right? And this is the other part. You talk about your feelings. Feelings, I feel hurt, right? I feel hurt, right? I feel ashamed or excited, or, you know, when you talk about yourself and how you feel, it's separate from the other person, right? It's your experience and you're only speaking for yourself, right? So did someone else want to express that?
It's like not pointing at anybody's mistake, trying to put it in a general. I'm not feeling okay because I'm feeling like I'm not appreciated, or someone in the team is not cooperating.
Yeah, but I don't see how that works when people feel that somebody did.
So Steve, you can go next. Steve, you can go next. That was, you know, just cut off Jorge, who was speaking. So let's let Jorge finish, and then you can get on staff, and Steve can go next. Right? We just have to keep practicing. It's very difficult.
I'm done.
Well, you weren't done, Jorge. Can you please say what you said again? Because we lost you at the end there. So you're saying not pointing at anyone?
Not pointing at people's mistakes, but put it in an I feel state, like I don't feel appreciated, and I feel the team is me, or I'm not being as cooperative as I should.
That is a good example. Great. All right, Steve.
I just don't see how that can always work when people feel that somebody did something wrong that affected them. If they feel that somebody did something wrong to them, there's no way they can express that without saying what was done to them. So I don't see how.
Okay, so let's go on. With it, speaking for yourself is just one component of nonviolent communication. It's not the entire thing. Okay, there's four main components, right? We're going to cover at least 3 of them. So let's skip to the one that you just brought up, and that is it's called statements of you know, basically a perceived experience. So basically, it's experience statements. Experience statements. Okay, so we could call this, you know, quote, factual observations, observations. But it's only your perception of what happened, right? So you can describe the actions and what occurred without having to use any opinions of your projection, right? So you try to withhold projections, withhold projected opinionated communication. All right, so that's how you explain what happened. So you can talk about anything in the relationship of the observed steps and occurrences. This was what happened first. This is what happened second. So for example, you could say, 5 minutes into the meeting, I was talking, and then, before I finished my sentence, person B started talking before I was able to be done. Okay, that's an example of a very, it's very difficult to talk like that, but it's an example of an experience statement of an observation of what happened in your perception, which is totally basically neutral, right? It's a neutral statement. Other people can either collaborate or not collaborate that statement. The opposite of that is like, I was talking and, person A totally cut me off and screwed me over and I didn't get a finish, and they purposely, were just, not respecting my communication, right? That's fully violent communication, right? So when you speak of it in your opinionated terms of what that person did to you is a violent communication, right? But you can easily explain. It's very difficult to do it, but every single action can be explained in an observable experience, which can be presented in a way that is basically as neutral as possible, right? You don't need to.
I'm sorry, Jay. 1 more minute before 15 minutes for this topic.
Okay. So, Steve, does that address your concern about being able to explain what happened?
I don't know if everybody from different parts of the world in our organization can see that as a way to talk, but it makes sense. I just don't see it happening.
Sure, but again,
like you're doing, I think that, as we say, we come from different, a lot of places, and they act in different ways and how things should be done. I hope it can be done that way, but it's going to be done that way. I hope it is, but I just don't see it.
Great. So
I think people are too upset at this point for it to work in that way. It should work that way, but I don't think it's going to work that way.
Okay. So again, it's still a lot of opinion, things like that. It's perfectly fine to feel like this doesn't work, but nonviolent communication techniques are proven. They can be implemented in any language, in any culture, and they're very, very, very difficult. Again, we spend 90% of our time when we communicate talking using basically violent language, right? That's how our society is trained. That's how we communicate. It's very normal to talk in what would be considered, more violent language. So using nonviolent communication techniques is a tool, right? It is not supposed to be the end-all only option for conflict evolution. It's just one tool, and it's very difficult, but it can solve a huge amount of problems. Okay? So there is also a technique where you just let people loose to speak at will as they want to, right? And typically you would still have it mediated, but there's nothing wrong with that, right? Many times it's the only way to express yourself, right? So you create a space where, okay, during this time, you can say whatever you want and just say it as you would, blah, 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 that fucking asshole, that bitch, God damn it, you can say whatever you want. People need that space to be able to release their pent-up anger and emotions, but that's not what nonviolent communication is. That's another tool. Yeah, that makes sense, Steve? So I'm not saying that you can't create a space where people can just unleash and say whatever, slander or words they want to say regardless of culture. Because sometimes that's necessary.
I don't know if I go that far, but yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so you need to do both. This is just one technique, but if you do not understand nonviolent communication, then it's just going to exacerbate things more further and further and further. Nonviolent communication is never supposed to, we're not ever supposed to talk 100% in perfect nonviolent communication. It's impossible. There's no way we can do that. We're not trained to do that, and we don't need to do that. What we need to do is we need to understand nonviolent communication in order to apply it to our workspace and apply it to our communication techniques so that we can better communicate, right? So let me just finish by saying I was going to cover one more example, and then really quickly I want to talk about communication, and our wonderful friend Monty is amazing at this. She understands that there's a huge difference between talking and really communicating and hearing each other and understanding each other. Right? So
I'm sorry, before that, it's 3 minutes before, over the mark, 15 minutes.
Okay,
and it's the moment to take our break for bathroom and stuff.
Okay, so anyway, the last thing is just repetition. You repeat what the other person said, repeat what the other person said over and over and over and over and over again. It's very slow, but it's very important. All right, so let's stop here. Do we want to continue with conflict evolution when we get back, or are we ready to move on to the next topic?
I don't know, but for me, it's okay to move on the next topic. I don't know if the rest of the team would agree.
All right, well, some of the next steps is like options for moving forward with current situation. I think that might be a good next step there to cover that for a couple minutes. But yeah, let's take a break and go from there. Sound good?
All right.
All right, cool.
That's good. So we're going for the 2-minute break right now, and we'll come back to wrap up with this part, okay? Sorry, Jay?
I think he go 2 minute break, George.
Yeah, I'll be back. I mean, yeah, sure. I'm back just in case. 2 minutes already passed.
Okay, I'm back too.
So, you ready to get started again?
Yes.
Cool. So, really quickly on next steps for the conflict evolution, I would say that it's perfectly fine to do the, any sextant team can do whatever they want. So, like the Zuri team can move forward as needed to communicate. But it's really important to also have like a trained conflict mediator. So obviously I have a lot of experience with conflict evolution and conflict mediation. So if I think maybe the Atlantic main session or the Sonic session or the quarter moon session, where Jay can help facilitate specifically the nonviolent communication section, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because that's just really important to be able to have, results. Because if people are just yelling and screaming at each other and people are just talking to each other and not actually communicating and hearing each other and understanding, it doesn't help, right? It's just talk. So people can talk at each other all the time, but when you're emotional, it's very difficult to actually hear and understand what someone's saying, right? So it takes a lot of time. So it takes time. And the last thing I want to hear, and this is something that I heard before, is it's all taken care of and wrapped in a perfect bow. And no problems anymore. All right, that's the last thing I want to hear. Any other next steps or so I think we need multiple sessions. We need to continue this ongoing, for many weeks potentially. So the idea like, oh, we don't want to deal with it anymore and it's done, totally done and perfect. It's just like, that's not going to help really at all. So are there any other concerns, questions, next steps people can think of? And if it gets worse, we can always get a third-party mediator.
I could also help with that. I've helped before in conflict resolution, but I think I'm not as good as you, but I could help if necessary.
Cool. Great. All right, I think we're ready to move on then. So we'll just see what happens. We'll get a report back from the Zuri session, and obviously, if Lucy doesn't feel comfortable, she needs to agree to the facilitator, and it's very important that Lucy agrees to the facilitator, and if she doesn't, / mediator, if she doesn't feel comfortable and she wants, me to do it, like she can try it, and then if it doesn't work out, she wants me to do it, or she wants to get a third-party facilitator. And, it's up to her, right? Because she needs to feel like she's in a safe space where she's heard, based on who's facilitating and mediating the session. Okay.
I'm asking, is it a must for someone to have to be a friend on Skype if you feel like you don't like, because maybe that person disturbing you with the unnecessary thing?
Whatever is necessary for communication for the work is required. So once we stop using Skype, we won't do it. But I mean, if you need to communicate with someone on Skype for work, you need to be able to communicate with them. Does that make sense?
Yes. Then what is the use of group Skype? Is it not the group Skype is for the what?
Yes. So if you can communicate on the group Skype between them, there's no need for personal private messaging for anything related to FQN Community Network. There is no such thing as personal private messaging. We're going to require all messages in smaller groups to be copied and pasted into documents. You guys can already start doing that, right? So if you have, communication with Skype with an individual relating to FQN communications, or that you met through the FQN community network, that needs to be copied and pasted into a document, right? So there is no private communication in the FQN community network. It's all public and can all happen in the group messaging. So there's definitely no requirement to do private messaging with anyone in the FQN community network. Okay, Lucy, does that answer your question?
Yes, that is why I block them, because I don't see any necessary thing that I can communicate with them privately.
Yeah, so if you're just saying that they can't communicate with you one-on-one and that they should just use the group, that is actually our policy. Our policy is to use the group communication for work with the group. Right? Does that make sense, Steve?
Okay, then I should not be forced to have someone on. I think it is an optional for me to have someone as a friend. If I feel like to have that person on my list, it is up to me, not someone to go and complain like, Lucy blocked me on this and this. I have a reason why I block that, because if I see this person is speaking a lot of things that does not make sense, it is good that person to use the public so that we can know exactly the kind of that person.
Yeah, and that's basic accountability, right? The whole idea of accountability and transparency is that we are communicating openly with the group, right? So if there's a need for a side group and a side channel, that's perfectly fine. But again, it's all going to be transparent and copied into a document. And eventually, we're going to have all of our communications online anyways, and it'll all be transparent in real time. So, Steve, are we on the same page on that too? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm fine with all that. I mean,
cool.
I just want to understand that nobody's attacking her, that they want to talk. We're good.
Yeah, so we obviously, I mean, for me, one of the most important thing is clarification on the HR policies. For example, private messaging or one-on-one messaging, right? Et cetera, et cetera.
The only thing that was said about
you cut off there, Steve.
6 minutes over the mark, 2 minutes.
All right, so what's the next topic? I think it's payroll, right?
Steve was saying something, and I don't hear it well.
Yeah, Steve, you want to try again?
I'm fine. I'm good.
All right, so let's go on to payroll. Payroll.
So, could I say something on payroll?
Yep.
I see that Jorge and Miguel want to take on the responsibility of payroll. 1 week, not even a week, to try to make it work. I think before you immediately switch to somebody else. She just got it done this week, but so late, but it's done today, and it would have been done yesterday, but it was for the output budget, and people weren't sure about how to do the output bonuses. I think before we jump to somebody else taking over, this is system work, or mine enjoys the system to give it a chance to work. No system works right the first week you use it. You got to give it a week or two to get it up, to work out the kinks. And I think it's only fair to Joyce that we give it a couple of weeks to work out the kinks.
Cool. So, I think just to make sure we're on the same page here, the most important part of all work, all projects, all responsibilities is getting the work done, right? The working. So anyone can do the work and take on responsibilities. I mean, there's more responsibilities with payroll than we have people, right? So there's so much to get done with them. So there's no question that we want people to work and take on more responsibility and help get the work done, right?
Oh, certainly.
So the question is in relationship to the positions. We currently have 3 manager positions within payroll. There's the coordinator, right? And actually there was exit payroll. We don't have that anymore. So we just have FQN, internal payroll. So there's only 2 positions now. So the exit payroll payroll manager doesn't exist anymore.
Well, just to make it clear, we were discussing this with Miguel because since we were checking the schedule for payroll, and sometimes it's, well, in a simple word, it's a mess because we are not proper control on what is getting paid, and from which period is this taken from, and people is not, and I'm counting myself on this. We are not verifying, we are not filling in when we are getting paid. There's a small box on the new payroll verification spreadsheet which says if you receive the money or not. We're not doing it, but
all right. But I'm saying
part of the policy, it's not been done. So I believe that like, I don't know, like someone should like take care of this, and by someone we said, well, Miguel and I could do it because we would like to become those, as we put their payroll experts, so we can also explain people when we will not be able to do it, how to do it properly, and how to know how it works, in not all process, but the whole part until the real time.
Okay.
From the very beginning, because we all know, like, some people is verifying that people is complying with the hours, and they checked on the new payroll, but they don't know what's the next step, or well, I'm not 100% sure of being on different parts of it, and I think there are some parts that can be improved, and that's why we propose ourselves. I know, and I understand, as Steve said, we should give like another week or so. But we had like a possible solution for that, but it's okay. We can give it a week or two. I don't know. We can discuss it in the next main session and decide. But it was just an idea. We wanted to be also responsible for this.
Let me, as one of the people doing, playing manager on payroll, being manager on payroll, address two things you just said. I will gladly, Joyce will gladly teach anyone how to do every part of payroll. Part of the problem is your availability, that the first part is done either late at night or first thing in the morning. And verified by the afternoon or by the evening to go when Jay's available for possible real-time payroll. But if you can, if you want to take the time, I will gladly show you how to do every step of the payroll, beginning to the end. Secondly, I was with you yesterday. He was filling out that box, and I've already informed Joyce about it, and we're going to figure out exactly how to make sure that box gets filled out, either by the people who actually get to pay, which would be the best way, or by, after real-time payroll is sent, by having the person who's doing it check that box that the pay was sent. But I'd rather have it done by the people who receive the money, so they can check that they received their money. So we already do have, we already have spoken about that problem. As far as things not being in the real-time payroll, this is just the first week we implemented payroll. I actually mentioned that to Jay last night during the Cobalt session, a little bit of my Cobalt session. He said, and the simple answer was, and I'm going to repeat Jay's answer, since nobody prioritized payroll, Jay paid people as he could, and nobody was around to put it in the payroll spreadsheet, but she didn't have time to do it because nobody prioritized doing payroll with him. Well, now when he has real-time payroll, there are at least two people prioritized to be with him, so he'll have someone to put it in the spreadsheet, so that doesn't happen anymore. Just trying to answer your, the things that you brought up, so that it is being addressed, and we're not just letting it go the way it was. We have made some changes, and we're trying to implement it the way it needs to be implemented. On the schedule, actually, you and Miguel actually have responsibility for the final verification most weeks because of the time schedule. But if you'd like to do other parts of it, Joyce and I will gladly show you how to do it and throw you into it. Right ahead.
So can I go next?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and then we can go back to Jorge. So first of all, the way that you say that last part, Steve, that like if you would like to, me and Joyce will gladly allow you to right?
That's not what that's the way you took me saying it. That's not what I meant to say.
I know.
Please don't put words in my mouth.
Well, I know I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just saying that that's the interpretation that I heard, right? That they should go through you to get assigned to the payroll.
No, but Joyce and I make the schedule up for who's doing payroll when, so it kind of has to go through either me or Joyce.
I know, but that's the way that you're implying it, and from what I heard, and you saying that it has to do that way, that further implies that's what I heard.
Well, wait, you were at the meeting where we agreed, and it was proposed and agreed on, that payroll will have specific people doing specific tasks at specific times. You were at that meeting, the proposal passed. If that's the case, there is a schedule with specific people doing specific jobs at specific times. So if somebody wants to do one of those jobs, they have to be added to that schedule.
Well, I don't remember us saying that no one is ever allowed to work on payroll when they're available to work on it. The schedule is there to help support people to get the work done.
It was my proposal.
Well, I would vote no on that.
And the proposal that was passed at not a team section, at a new moon or a quarter moon section, was that we would schedule specific people with specific responsibilities at specific times, and it would occur weekly or monthly, because we have different people doing first and third, and every other month, and twice a month. But it would be specific people on the sheet.
Okay, so what I would say,
if you want to change that situation and make a new proposal, stop doing that.
Yeah, so my proposal would be that the timeline, the schedule for the payroll is a guideline to help make sure the work gets done, but it doesn't limit people from working on payroll at other times.
There's a problem with that. Then nobody knows what anybody's doing. That's why we have a payroll Google group with only the people on payroll in it.
But I didn't say that just any random person. The point is that, the point is that you're saying that the policies are that everyone has to go through you. I'm saying that the focus is on the worker, and that whoever wants to work as a worker who is trained and understands payroll can work on the payroll at the time that they are scheduled, that they want to schedule and get the work done. That's all I'm trying to say.
We just completed the 10 minutes for this topic, but I want to add something.
Okay, but I didn't get to finish what I was trying to say because I went back and forth with Steve instead of saying what I wanted to say. But yeah, Jorge, you can go first. Jorge, you can go first, then we come back to me.
Okay, yeah, on the schedule mentioned before, we were checking it yesterday as well. And I don't know on which criteria that schedule is done, because we are scheduled for a time that we are sleeping. We're scheduled for a time that we are not. It's not under our availability.
I don't know what schedule you're looking at. The only schedule that has your name on it has you in Andromeda. The only schedule that has your name has you doing the Andromeda section, and I'll link it to our doc. Let me get it up.
Okay, I will also take the spreadsheet which has the payroll time frame and fee status. Is this one payroll timeline schedule? This is the one we were checking yesterday, and it says that waiting for Jorge, and I say, well, if I have an availability on my main document, I'm being scheduled for a time that I'm not supposed to be available. And
let me see the schedule. It's the schedule that I have.
I will gladly put the schedule there, and you can see it, because it's the one with Miguel and I were checking yesterday. And we say, okay, if we are scheduled for America's time, this hour to this hour, why are we being put on the schedule on a different time? And say we were glad to work on the America's time on our Andromeda session, but
you, as far as I know, you were only scheduled.
It says, for example, that I'm scheduled for end of month payroll with Jay on the Friday 12 p.m. America's time, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. So that would be 11.
She might have made a mistake on that. Let me look. Hold. Here we go. I got it. Let me pull it up and see what it says. No, that's not it. I have so many dots on my feet that I have to find it.
Okay,
I know
so
when I looked
can
at
I
it,
step in a little bit here? Can I step in a little bit
Yes,
here?
please.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
overall, my concern with the management style is that at all these sessions we're focusing more on the management than just getting the work done. Why aren't we actually addressing the questions and the work of payroll, right? And then it's like the vocabulary of the schedule is still not hitting the mark for me. It's a timeline. We have a timeline of a list of temporal goals of when we would like to get all these payroll things done, but it's not a schedule until each and every individual commits to attending at that time.
Everybody but Jorge, because she sent Jorge numerous messages and he was on vacation, has committed to it.
Sure, but there should still
Except
be.
you,
There
and
should
that's
still
why
be.
for you, we have 4 different times.
Okay, but there should still be a differentiation between the the timeline and the schedule, right? And right now it's all the same thing. So either way, the point is that all I need right here at this moment, we're already way over time, is just to know when Jorge and Miguel want to check in and when we can run the payroll. Like later today, tomorrow morning. Like, let's just do it, get it done.
It's verified. It's waiting.
We could do it right now if we just decided to prioritize it above this meeting. Done. We do the payroll, right? So it's just like, it's just a matter of prioritizing it and getting it done.
Steve, sorry, I know I'm being a little bit quiet in this session, but I remember that Joyce makes this schedule, but yesterday, watching it with George, I am not available at 11 a.m. AMT.
It's not supposed to be 11 a.m. AMT. She made a mistake on the schedule. I don't know why she did that. It didn't say 11 AMT originally. Originally, it had you doing final verification, doing the Andromeda session, because I put it in there. So I haven't looked at it in the last day or two, so maybe she made a mistake, but I don't know. Maybe she changed something accidentally, but it had you and Jorge doing the payroll, doing final verification after I did second verification in the Andromeda session. And unfortunately, I can't. I don't know why I can't find it, but I can't find it on my sheets.
And
Okay, so
Gregorian Day is Thursday or Friday, or is Thursday and Friday?
I said I can't find
Our document,
Okay.
Steve, there it is.
Can I
In our document.
can I finish what I was going to say before? While Steve's looking for that, is that okay, Miguel?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So just to finish, what I need to say is simply that like, I just think it's important that we follow policies. If we just do the work, the managers are not necessary, right? If we just get the work done and we get payroll done on time every week and we follow up on it and we make sure that it gets done. We did it for our client for Exile all the time. We should be able to do it for ourselves, right? So that's the one thing. The second thing and the last thing I want to say is that it's really important that we are on the same page on how managers exist and how they are chosen and who they are responsible to. Okay? And so the first thing I would say is that when I go to the management list, and what I remember is that Albina, Nelly, Joyce, and Abigail signed up to be payroll managers. Right?
Albina, Nelly said she doesn't want to do it anymore. Albina said she doesn't want to do it anymore. And the other person said they don't want to do it anymore. So Joyce asked me if I would do it.
Yeah, so the point is that Steve nominated and appointed himself, which is not the process that
I was asked. I did not nominate myself. I certainly did not want more work.
Sure, but the point is that the process is that it goes to a team meeting and that we as the global core team choose the managers, right? The managers are accountable to the team, not the other way around. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So I think ideally we could approve this proposal. We could address the proposal, and then we can finalize a proposal for the payroll managers. But what I'm hearing from Jorge and Miguel is that they're not interested in being a payroll manager. They're only interested in running the payroll, which is 1/20th of the responsibilities of the manager role. Do you guys understand that, Jorge and Miguel? What you guys are talking about is the 20th of the responsibilities of the manager. So you guys need to be really clear what you're talking about. You're talking about a specific responsibility, or you're talking about the management system.
Right. And just so you know, with the timeline thing, he actually did a switch. You're supposed to be at the 2 to 4, and I'm supposed to be at the 11 to 1. He just put them in backwards.
Okay, well, I don't know what that really means, but whatever's fine.
No, because me and Asif were supposed to do second verification, and she flipped, and be around doing the Atlantic, and Jorge and Miguel were supposed to be here doing the Andromeda on the payroll schedule, and she just accidentally flipped them back and the times back and forth. And it was an honest mistake on her part. Because I'm there in the hydro section with Asif is there with me, and Miguel and Jorge are always here in the Andromeda section. So she accidentally just flipped the two around.
Just a quick reminder, we are almost 10 minutes from the 10 minutes we have for this time.
Okay, Steve, I want to know something. Is it a must we follow that schedule time frame that you put guys there? Because you might find somebody is just maybe want to work on that.
Well, that's the proposal that I have right now that I think we should address the proposal.
Okay.
Jay, if I may address...
And also other thing, what's the work of manager? Is it to make sure, I think the work of manager to make sure the work is done, not to organize how people are going to work. Your work, I don't know. Their work is to make sure the work is done, not to make not to follow the people who need to, maybe to follow, not to put the time frame. You need to be here specifically. This is not your time. It is time for these people. I think anyone who knows how to work on payroll, anytime can work. Not really. We need to follow the time frame. Time frame is there to guide us, but it's becoming like only people who the names are there are supposed to work. If your name is not there, you are not supposed to work. I think you need to check on that.
We did, and if you go to the decision stock, and you can look back about a month and a half ago, where the statement was that we've been trying to do it that way. That we've been trying to do it that way with anybody who's available to do it all along, and it hasn't been working. So we were going to try to set up a system with specific people to do specific work at specific times. It took about a month and a half because of the hard stop to get the system set up, but it's finally up. So we would like to try to have it being done at specific times so that we have an exact timeline when it will get done and when real-time payroll can be not a week later, 2 weeks later.
Okay, but the difference of what you're saying and what we're saying, Steve, is that we said that we agreed to do a timeline and a schedule for payroll where we have specific times for people working on payroll. That is totally different than saying nobody can work on payroll any other time, which means that I shouldn't have paid anybody over the last month and no one should have gotten paid because it wasn't scheduled.
Well, this wasn't up and running until just now. This is the first week it's up and running.
But it doesn't make sense. Like go and get the proposal and copy and paste it here. Either way, I have a new proposal. The proposal is that the timeline and the schedule for payroll is a guideline to help make sure the work gets done, aka meet the goal. And it is to not limit people from working on payroll at other times.
Then they have to make sure to put it in the Google group that they did the work so another team doesn't repeat their work.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that as long as they put it in the Google group. So that the next team knows, because everybody's supposed to look at the Google group when they start their shift to see what was done and what wasn't done. And as long as everybody does that, I'm fine with it.
Hey, if I may speak, please.
Yeah.
George and I speak about payroll yesterday because we want to help the organization to get the work done. Yes, I didn't know that just a week ago, Joyce and Steve take I don't know if I'm saying right, the control about the film payroll, and for me, that's okay. They are implementing a method, which is what George and I are trying to figure out, to follow through, to understand, and for all to do the payroll. So I believe that the initiative of Steve and Joyce are very welcome. And of course, George, we are very willing to work in our hours. Please have that issue. Please have that in your mind, and you tell me already it was a mistake. So okay, and that's the real deal, you know, to get the work done, to help the organization to get the work done, because
I agree.
Sometimes there is so much talking and the doing is not much, you know. And George and I are very worried about to work and to deliver and to help, you know, because we have a very similar mindset that we must to deliver stuff, to deliver things that are tangible, and we are very worried about to help Steve, to help Joyce, to help Jay, to help the organization to go through, you know. That's
can I jump in?
That's our sentiment in this issue, in this matter.
Mine also.
We're going to help.
Can I jump in, guys? All right, so we need to move on. Like, we're talking about this too much and too long, and like we just need to address the issues that need to get addressed and move on, and then be done, because we can't just continue talking about this forever. Okay. So the first question I have for Miguel and Jorge: are you saying you want to become a manager? Because if you don't want to be a manager, then this is a mute issue and it's not applicable to the discussion.
Well, for me, George,
like it's a yes or no question. It's either you're proposing to become a manager of payroll, or you just are going to be a worker and you're helping accomplish the responsibilities and getting the work done. You don't need to be a manager. But
yes, Jay. I think I don't know, Miguel, if I'm talking by you as well, but taking the manager position is like verifying that everything gets done. But we would like to do things, right? We would like to do like every single step of that payroll, because we're seeing that it's not. We have to integrate it horizontally. Otherwise, it's going to be falling through the cracks, as you say.
Okay, so but again, my question is: do you want to propose to be a manager right now or not? It's a simple question. Of course, everyone wants to get the work done. No one's stopping you from getting the work done. You can get the work done. Like, you don't have to ask for permission to do work. I totally disagree with what Steve has said before about that you need to get permission to work. It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, George, I'm sorry if I could speak in this matter. I think we are not interested in managers, because Steve and Joyce are doing that, and we want the work done. And I feel that we want to help the methodology that they are creating, because we want to make the work done. Right, George?
Yeah, true. Okay.
So is that a no?
Is that a no? Yeah.
Yeah, plus Steve said that they still only been for a week.
Yeah, we
want to know if it's working or not.
Any discussion relating to the manager stuff is not applicable to this discussion unless you guys are interested in being managers, okay? So we can let that all go.
Okay.
All right. So the next question is, according to what I see here, the original approved managers was Joyce for the overall payroll coordinator, and then Nelly for the FPN internal payroll manager. So it would make sense that we would update that briefly. And so, Steve, what manager role do you have?
That Joyce asked me to be the payroll manager with her. She actually asked me to be the co-coordinator with her.
Sure.
And I said, I have enough coordinators positions. I can help you manage it.
Okay, so again, there's two payroll positions. There is the overall payroll coordinator and co-coordinator position.
That's Joyce.
And then there's the FQED internal payroll manager.
That's me.
Okay, so Steve, so the proposal, so this would be a proposal. All right, so these would be our current payroll managers. Okay, does that make sense?
Okay.
And again, all managers are accountable. All managers are accountable to the team. The team can change who the managers are at any time. Okay, everyone understand?
Okay.
All right, so the proposal is that Joyce will be the overall payroll coordinator and that Steve is the FQN internal payroll manager, and then we need to update that here. Are there any questions about the proposal? Are there any concerns about the proposal? Are there any objections to the proposal?
No objections.
No from me. But something that is going to be, well, no. In the payroll schedule, there is a responsibility description. So yesterday with George, we were talking about to read it through all of that to understand a lot about payroll. So I think an idea would be like one of the things that Steve and Joyce are doing is, I believe, is great, but they need to communicate your thoughts. You know, that we're going to do this plan, and to inform to all the organizations so we can add it up and help you and to know what's going on. Because yesterday, George and I, we didn't know what's going on with the payroll. Now we have more information. So a good idea will be to give a plan about how you guys are going to do it. And all for the other people in the organization can add up and help you, you know, and to be informed. Yeah, that's very important to be informed, like the memo, you know.
Okay, so what does that mean as far as like needing to do something? Can we just move on to the next proposal, or is there something specific that we need to deal with?
I think we can move on.
Okay, so anyways, like Miguel, just prioritize it at the next session. You want to prioritize payroll, make it another agenda item, and we'll continue to work on it. And you can ask more questions and learn more, and Steve can explain more, etc., etc. And I do want to add that I do have a concern that Steve is taking on a lot, but that's the only thing.
I got broad shoulders.
Okay, so the other proposal is I actually don't think the other proposal is necessary because no one has been able to produce, the past proposal, because I disagree with the interpretation of the past proposal. But we'll just do it just in case. That the timeline, the schedule for payroll is a guideline to help make sure that the work gets done. It does not limit people from working on payroll during scheduled or other times. And therefore, it's the policy is not a limitation. It's to support. It is to support workers. And that you would update the Google group with progress of payroll. That's the proposal. Are there any questions about the proposal?
How can someone update the work to Google Groups?
Can we link the Google group here?
Yes, I can link the Google. It's also on every description in the payroll, but I will gladly link it there.
Can you link the payroll doc? Could you link the payroll document?
The payroll time frame, it's already linked to it's already linked.
All right, here's the payroll time frame.
It's already there.
FQN payroll group, is this it?
Yep.
And generally, my recommendation is that we would separate the schedule from the timeline. Would be a recommendation.
Meanwhile, you people are linking. I'm listening to the conversation from the past 35-40 minutes. I'm sorry for late, about 1 hour, and I'm at 6.5 today. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. We didn't notice that you were here. So thanks for checking in.
No, this actually I don't want to interrupt people. Thank you.
All right, now, Lucy, I just linked the Google group onto the doc, okay?
Okay.
So you can click on here, and you can go to the Google group, and you can sign up for it. About payroll. All right, so any questions about the proposal? No questions. Any concerns about the proposal?
No questions.
Concerns? None? Okay. Are there any objections?
Well, I want to get a note before anything. If somebody, it's very important. If somebody wants to work in a certain task, it must have training for doing that task, especially in finances. So that would be ideal. Like if someone is going to do something in payroll, they should have passed some kind of training, you know?
Yeah, well, but like,
So
for example,
he's
you,
able to work.
so for example, you,
This is
Miguel,
always what we do.
yeah, so for example,
If
you,
you are
Miguel,
working with someone that does not understand much about payroll, you will get that person who doesn't understand about much payroll. Because not everyone understand more about payroll. We always guide them. We work together. They learn us. Also, we work together.
yeah. So for example, Miguel, you're new to payroll. You're new to pretty much everything, right? So it's like we work with you in payroll by training you on how to do payroll. So you would need to be paired with someone else who knows about payroll so that you can get training. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course, that's very important because I remember the last time that we talked about it, and in that column we got figures that was subtracting, and we didn't know where they come from. So that kind of things can be addressed.
Yeah, and the responsibility of organizing is very important. In the list of all of the links to the training videos is very important, right? To make sure that's all getting done. Whoever is responsible for payroll responsibilities needs to be organizing each and every individual responsibility with the link to the training videos, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So
okay, I think we should have some time for billing because we're running out of time.
I have to go. We haven't finished the proposal yet. Are there any other concerns about the proposal?
Lucy, I sent you an invite.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other concerns for the proposal?
No concerns from me.
Okay. Are there any objections?
No objections.
All right. So consensus on the proposal. All right. So I think we are ready to move on. But I got to get going. So I mean, you guys can do some on the billing on your own, but I mean, for me, I would like to wrap up and check out. I mean, I don't even know if we have time to wrap up because we're already over 25 minutes.
15 minutes over, yeah.
We're over 25 minutes past our wrap-up time. But we have to just realize that every session we can only do so much. We can't do everything during a session, right? That's why what we prioritize is extremely important. Like I don't think people understand how important prioritization is. Right, so it's like we can't do everything, right? So it's like when we prioritize conflict, that takes the majority of our time. That's what we focus on. We prioritize conflict at the new moon session. We spent most of our time on it, and we didn't get to our monthly goals, right? So we prioritize it again today. We didn't get to our weekly goals. It's just that's the way it is. So if people want to keep prioritizing conflict and prioritizing other things, then we do that. We can't do other things. It's just the way it is. So do you guys all want to continue, or do you guys want to wrap up and check out, or what do you guys want to do?
I would love to wrap up and check out because we're going to have a strong guideline for billing and the new billing that we're doing, understanding billing as you said. So yeah, wrap up and check out. I'm speaking for me. I don't know, guys.
I go with wrap up and I have some individual work that I promised I would get done that I need to do, and Asif is here. I can actually work with Asif and get it done. So wrap up and check out is pretty good for me. But Lucy, we actually sent you an invitation on January 15th. So look at your emails. Well, let me send you a second one. But go back into your emails, and you were sent an invitation on the 15th.
Okay.
Same here. And Jay, at what time we are going to meet again?
Well, I'm available later today, possibly pretty late. Like it might be around like 6 or 7 my time, which would be 8 or 9 America's time.
Okay.
And if he can't, message me and I'll join you to do payroll if I have to.
Okay. And
Steve, I think you're the one doing the final verification. Kindly check on my output.
I already did. I already
not
did
the
it.
right thing.
I already did, and it's been corrected. It's approved. You got your output bonus.
Cool. So
It's already there.
So in terms of
There is 2 hours you said did not do the work, and confirm it.
I went through it again. It's fine. You got 4 hours and 25 minutes, or
Okay.
4.5 hours for output, rather.
And just to let you guys
But
know,
you need to. Okay, sorry.
and just to let you guys know, I'm going to go sell the medals. Right, the medals finally came.
They came. Okay.
Yeah, they came, and so I was gonna go do that, and then I was going to go to the bank and deposit the money. So we should be able to do all of the Western Union today, which is a big exciting.
I was going to say, hey, that's our payroll money. Let's check out quickly.
Yeah.
That's the money for payroll. Let's check out.
Cool. All right. So I think we're ready to check out. So, Steve, do you want to go through the checkout?
Sure, I'll go through checkouts. Who, Steve, would you like to check out?
Yes. Thank you guys for today's session. Tomorrow I'm not going. Let me inform you. I'm not going to be on that meeting that you insist out until I recover myself from that. I'm not going to attend any discussion that you are saying. Thank you.
All right. So Lucy, you have to attend something. So how about the Atlantic session on Tuesday, where myself, I will be the mediator. Is that sound okay? Or we could do the Sonic session on Wednesday morning. Like which one works best for you?
I don't know. I'll confirm. But for tomorrow, no.
Okay, so just but you do need to agree. It needs to happen either one of those 2 sessions or at the quarter moon session. But you can't just not agree to anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So choose. It could either be the quarter moon session, the Atlantic session, or the Sonic session. Otherwise, it could be at this session again next week. You know. So those are your options, but it needs to happen in the next week because it can't just continue to linger where no one can communicate about these things. Okay.
Okay, it might be maybe next week, but this is no.
It can't be a maybe, Lucy. It has to be like you have 24-hour notice to choose what day and what time and who your mediator and facilitator is going to be, and you need to let everyone know. Okay.
Yes, and let them document everything. I need the documentation from Albina.
Of course.
Yeah, I need the documentation that they communicate with Steve and Joseph. I need those documentation. Any documentation that they have.
Okay,
Let's have put all the documentation. It's my request.
Okay, so that would be a request. So Lucy's requesting.
Without that documentation, I'm not going to attend.
So Lucy is requesting documentation on the communications between who? Lucy, who is it?
Between Steve, Joseph.
I didn't have any talk with Albina. I didn't have any discussion with Albina. I had a discussion with Joyce.
Steve and Joseph.
Yeah.
I didn't have any discussion with Joseph. There was no discussion with Joseph.
I need request, please. I need a documentation that I don't want anything that Albina deleted communicating with Steve. That really make me annoyed.
Okay, so Joseph. Albina and Steve, is that correct?
Yes, then Joseph.
Well, there was no combination between me and Joseph. I do have some documentation from me and Albina, and I'll gladly send it to you.
And I have people.
Well, no. It needs to get sent to everybody. Okay, it needs to be sent to everybody in transparency.
I'll put it on the Zuri Skype.
Put it into a document. Our policy is that you copy and paste the Skype communications of a individual or small group into a document, and then you link the document to the group. Okay.
All right, I can gladly do that. And I have to find it because it was like a week ago, but yes, I can find it.
Well, yeah, I mean, just find it, like you and Albina's communication, copy and paste the entire communication between you and Albina onto the document. Right. We don't need a specific part. We want all of it. It's all required. Okay. All right. So thank you, Lucy, for your requests. That's part of the conflict evolution or resolution is people give requests and then people either agree to the request or not. Steve agreed to it. Good to go. Steve, who else needs to check out?
Would you like to check out? Okay.
My turn. Yay. Okay. So yeah, I am. I feel like we actually made a lot of progress in this meeting. I know it feels like it goes slow, but in the bigger scheme of things, we're doing really well. So I'm a little worried about the canopy stuff. There's definitely some trades that need to happen so that we can make some more money because everything's going back up. So we need to get rid of the US dollars so that it goes up. So from there, I am going to go to the bank and get the money deposited. I have a bunch of moving back in. So like they finished the fumigation. So now I have to move all the boxes back in the hotel. So I'm very busy and doing moving and boxing and all this stuff today. And yeah, check.
All right. Jorge, would you like to check out?
Sure. A sec. Well, I felt like we moved a little bit on more on conflict resolution, and I'm getting back to the rhythm of things on the organization. Check.
Okay. Miguel, would you like to check out?
Yeah. Thank you very much for this session. I'm learning. I hope that I've been helpful for the resolution of the conflict. And remember to always look for being professional and to have your mind open. You can hear and hear about what's going on. So, Lucy, I'm addressing to you, it's very important that you open a channel to hear and to hear. It's very important. Check.
Thank you.
Okay.
And
Asif, would you like to check out?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I'm continuously listening to you people. Actually, I'm not that much a religious kind of person, but I do believe in God's saying. It's in Bible. It's in different, books also. That God loves the most that person who forgets everything and move forward. So we request everybody that we are family over here. You should forget everything. Don't take anything personal and leave it and move forward. That will be better for our community, better for your personal life as well, apart from this community. And it will help you, not today, it will help you a lot in the future. So, yeah, check. Thank you. I didn't take any name. I didn't take any name, okay?
Nice, Asif. Thanks for that.
Last but not least, Mazi. Oh, not last, I'm last. Mazi, how about you?
Yeah, guys, it's great to be part of this community. We love to be here with you guys. And it's honor for me to be with you. Check.
Okay, and then last but not least, me. It was a productive meeting. Some things got done, maybe not as much as we could have gotten done, but a lot got done. Hopefully the conflict resolution will work out and everybody will be happy and at least able to work with each other and not feel personally affronted. Of course, I don't think anybody should not be able to work. Check.
So, did everyone check out?
Yeah.
All right. So really quickly, just to finish up with the conflict evolution, Lucy made a specific request to Steve, and we addressed that. And then we are making a request to Lucy. So I want to make sure the request is really clear. My proposal would be that we request Lucy to choose a time and a mediator for a group session to communicate more and move forward as a group, and that we would give her a 24-hour notice for a soft stop and then 48-hour notice for a hard stop. That would be like she needs to choose the time and the date, right? Does that make sense, or am I off kilter there, or what?
No, I think we need to get this at least, everybody talking. So I think, 24-hour notice and have it done by next week sometime.
Yeah, so the Atlantic, Sonic, quarter moon, Pacific, or Andromeda next week. So I think those are your options, or other proposed time from Lucy. Like, you can propose another time if you want to. So are there any objections with this request to Lucy?
I have no.
All right, so no questions, no objections. So this is a request from the group and requirement to Lucy of 24 hours to basically choose what meeting and the mediator that you want. And then obviously the rest of the group is going to need to agree to it, but that's that. And then at 48 hours, it would be the hard stop, okay? So you need to get back to us on that.
Next week, Andromeda.
Yeah, just let us know when you'll be available to do that.
Next week.
Well, I know you have to choose the time. It's either the Atlantic session, the Sonic session, the quarter moon session, the Pacific session, Andromeda session, or some other time.
Andromeda session.
Andromeda session next week?
Yeah.
That's going to be 3 or 4 in the morning for some of the people who want to talk, but okay. All right.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Well, maybe we should do the quarter moon as well. Then we do the quarter moon, and that should allow everybody who is in the global community to be able to do it. So we should probably do the quarter moon as well as Andromeda session and do both of them. More is better than less. Okay?
Okay, that works. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, buddy.
All right. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you.